culture means earth, motherland, Africa, originality. So yes, whatever it is, if you're African, go back to Africa and connect to your source. Thank you.
Essence Fest. That lady got up there on that podium and she said, yes, motherland, Africa. It came from Africa.
Africans ruin Essence Fest. You would think you walked around and you just heard Jerusalem, Ikayanami. He no gonna say no.
Keep non-Black Americans away from things that are for Black Americans.
Y'all, I came across too many videos yesterday about the Essence Fest supposedly now being too Africanized.
This whole Essence debacle really exposes Africans. They don't have an impact. Their culture, they don't have an impact on the world like that.
Okay, this is for my Caribbean people. I'm not African, so I'm not speaking for Africans. I'm speaking for Caribbean people. What is the issue with Black Americans wanting to have Essence Fest be about Black American culture?
Because it was originally created by you guys. You know, you created a space for yourself, but then you sold it. You gave it away. Sold it to African people. So now you can't pick and choose who can come into that space because it's no longer yours. You sold it. That's kind of how the law of ownership works.
My goal for this video is to offend everyone, especially if honesty offends you. Because I'm gonna talk about both sides, foundational Black Americans and my African and Caribbean brothers and sisters. So let's roll some clips and talk about it. Roll them.
Keep non-Black Americans away from things that are for Black Americans. Why is there a Jollof versus Jambalaya competition at Essence Fest?
Because this is the owner of Essence Fest. And as you can see, he was born in Liberia. That's not Mississippi. That's a country in Africa. Okay? Again, this is the CEO of Essence Fest. And unfortunately, she is not from Delaware. She is from Kenya, which is also a country in East Africa.
Why are there African and Caribbean vendors at Essence Fest?
Because it was originally created by you guys. You know, you created a space for yourself, but then you sold it. You gave it away. Sold it to African people. So now you can't pick and choose who can come into that space because it's no longer yours. You sold it. That's kind of how the law of ownership works. And one thing about Africans, they're going to bring a Caribbean in every fucking time they can because we cousins, we locked in. So of course we going to be there.
She's right. And as upsetting as this may sound, the person we Black Americans need to be upset with is the people who sold Essence. They sold Black culture for profit, like BET.
BET. You niggas have nothing better to watch.
Who owns Black entertainment television? Oh, you poor Black Americans. You didn't know? Quick history lesson. BET was started in 1980 by Robert L. Johnson, who sold it to Viacom. Viacom merged with CBS and was renamed Paramount Global. Paramount Global is controlled and owned by Sherry Redstone. And if you haven't noticed, she's white.
The nigga was too stunned to speak.
And honestly, I haven't watched BET since it was sold. And I will continue to not watch it until they sell it to someone Black, like Byron Allen.
You've been named as one of the potential bidders.
Yes.
How are you?
Yeah, this is a phenomenal asset. They're running a process. We're a part of it. There's some other wonderful people pursuing it as well. Tyler Perry, P. Diddy, all great guys who I love and respect. And this is an institution. And this is something that used to be Black owned. And now this is the time for it to go back into Black ownership, which is very important.
And somehow, BET is still profitable. Now, it's becoming less profitable, but if you're a Black American and you're subscribed to BET, you're a part of the problem. But let's continue.
If Caribbeans and Africans want to have an event that's as big as Essence Fest, they can go create it.
Now, why exactly would we do that when you lot have already created the space and sold it for us to use? That's kind of like buying a house and choosing to sleep outside. Don't make no fucking sense.
And for the Black Americans that have an issue with other Black Americans having pride in being Black American, where is your racial self-esteem at? Why is it so low? What the hell is going on?
I don't think it's them with the self-esteem issue. I think it's you.
I think as a Black American, you can be upset about it, but if you're not gonna do anything about it, you just chatting. Honestly, I thought the Target boycott, y'all were just chatting too, but so far, I've been proven wrong. But we need to bring back boycotting. And I'm not saying boycott the Essence Festival. I'm not a fan of the whole FBA versus our African brothers and sisters. But I will say, boycott everything we can boycott from people who don't look like us. Black people, you spend way too much money with everybody that doesn't look like us, and not enough money with people who do look like us. So stop eating at Chinese restaurants if you can eat at a soul food restaurant in the same area. Stop buying Gucci, Louis, and Prada when you can buy black-owned clothing lines. I don't give a shit about your Rolex watch. I got that TNT, that Tally and Twine. There used to be a sense of pride in the Ace of Spades bottles that I bought, that I spent over $2,000 on. But then Jay sold the company and I never bought a bottle again. So if you can, go shop black. Let's continue.
Anyway, shout out to all the African Americans that just fuck with everybody. Everybody fuck with you niggas too. Yeah, let us be outside. Let us enjoy. Good night.
There was a lot of creators who didn't like her, but I did enjoy her energy. So let's move on to another creator that made some good points as well.
And one thing about Africans, they're gonna bring a Caribbean in every fucking time they can. Because we cousins, we love them.
This is Luis, a Spanish guy. Not NYC Spanish, but Spanish from real. Like from Spain, speaks proper Spanish. He owns a large percentage of Jamaica's beachfront properties. If y'all don't know, 99.99% of Jamaica's beachfront is privately owned. They're doing Lysol numbers over there. This is the Stewart family. They also own a large percentage of Jamaica's beachfront property. This is Alex and Gordon. Rest in peace to Gordon. This is Alex's family. What a beautiful family. I can smell the wealth right off the picture. Right? To be fair, they're Jamaicans, right? They was born and raised in Jamaica. They could trace their lineage back to England. And that explains why a lot of Jamaicans have English last names. These are white Jamaicans. More melanated Jamaicans, the dark-skinned Jamaicans, they can only access 0.6 of their beaches. 0.6% is public beaches. But Alex seemed like a cool white Jamaican. Maybe he'll give you a free tour of one of his beachfront properties. Jamaicans can't even be homeless on their beaches because what can you do with 0.6% access? I can't just talk about Jamaicans, Caribbean people without mentioning their African cousins. The DRC, Congo, brother. China owns 70% of your minerals. 70% of your mining companies belongs to China. Y'all can no longer complain about being exploited or colonized. This is how ownership works.
With that said, why not buy back your neighborhood? These other cultures, China, Russia, they see potential in your hometown, in Africa. So why come to America and buy the little bit of pride that Black Americans have left? We barely own anything, so you can see why this is upsetting. That would be like me going to Africa or even doing it in America and buying a famous West Indian restaurant when I don't know shit about West Indian food. Now, I love to eat West Indian food, but I don't know anything about it. So imagine if I bought that restaurant, then I started changing the menu around. You'd probably be like, why didn't you just start your own restaurant? The other thing is, there needs to be more respect from both sides because we need to be working together. Your parents who came to America taught you that Black Americans are lazy. Now, I've been to Jamaica, I've been to Africa, and it's beautiful. But there are also very poor areas, and I don't say that to disrespect my brothers and sisters. I say that because there's this notion that Black Americans are lazy, when people in general are lazy. They are lazy people of all races. And to be honest with you, only the top immigrants make it to America. So when they compare Black Americans to West Indians, they're usually comparing the hardest working people in their community versus our laziest people in our community. And I promise you, there are plenty of hardworking Black Americans that will outwork some of these lazy Mexicans, Dominicans, Asians, or West Indians. If Black Americans started to move to DR, to Africa, to the Caribbeans, anywhere, it wouldn't be our poor, it wouldn't be our lazy and uneducated. We come, buy land, and spread our culture as well. Africa has been welcoming for us to do that, and I'd personally like to in the future, but we gotta get our shit together at home first. And speaking of first, I'd rather have Essence owned by Rich Lou Dennis instead of it being owned by Times Magazine, because I'm sure most people didn't know he didn't buy it from a Black company.
In 2000, Time Inc., that is the company that publishes Time Magazine, Sports Illustrated, Fortune, they purchased a 49% ownership stake in Essence Communications Inc. And then in 2005, they purchased the rest of the ownership stake, so they owned Essence Magazine. But in 2018, Essence was sold to this man. His name is Richelieu Dennis.
So Black people, would you rather Mark, a Caucasian, own Essence, or would you rather it be owned by Rich Lou Dennis? Most of us are gonna say Rich.
And his background is interesting. Richelieu Dennis is an immigrant from Liberia. That's where he grew up. And he came to the United States to attend college. After he graduated from college, he started a bath and hair care line called Sundial Brands. He grew the company. It became very successful. And in 2017, he sold Sundial Brands to Unilever. And then in 2018, he went to Time Inc. and bought Essence Communications Inc., becoming the owner of Essence Magazine and the Essence Festival. But after he purchased Essence Magazine in 2018, things really took a weird, unfortunate turn. According to reporting by The Root, in 2020, and of course, you all know that was the first year that it was pure chaos because the pandemic was raging all over the world. There was a group of anonymous employees, both former employees and believed to be some current at the time employees of Essence, who under the name hashtag Black Female Anonymous wrote an open letter and they published it to medium.com. And the contents of that open letter were quite disturbing. They accused Dennis and other C-suite executives at Essence Ventures, the new company that controlled Essence Magazine and the Essence Festival, of various abuses, including abuses of power, bullying, creating a toxic work environment, and even more unsettling, they specifically accused Dennis of having inappropriate relationships in the workplace and also sexual harassment. Now, when these allegations were published, many of the accused executives had already moved on from the company. But Dennis stepped aside and he tapped Caroline Wanga, who was an executive at Target, to come over and serve as interim of Essence Ventures that controlled Essence Magazine and Essence Festival. Reportedly, Wanga retained an outside law firm that did an internal investigation of all of the allegations. The law firm reported that they could find no evidence to substantiate the allegations, and it all went away. But Wanga continued on as CEO of Essence Ventures, a position that she holds to this day.
So that's the short story of how Rich acquired Essence and the issues that came up after. Let's listen to some of the other reactions.
I don't know about y'all, but Black Americans is tired of being the bottom of the totem pole. We give you culture, you take it, you run with it. You know what I do respect about BET though? BET says Black excellence. It always do in their commercials, Black excellence. And I always wondered, like, why do they just say Black excellence? And now I understand why, because you can't intertwine the two.
They should say Black excellence, white profits. I'm just saying.
The problem is everybody from every other continent literally comes to America and disrespects us. And you even got some Africans on here saying that they were taught to come over here to disrespect us. Like as if we're bugs or something. I believe that. Everybody talking about they returning home to Africa, but this is your home. Even the ancestors fought to stay here, because they were never from Africa.
And there's some truth to that. Even some of my friends have said it to me. But as Black Americans, we're not innocent either. I know for a fact, we've made fun of Africans in elementary school, middle school, saying mean things like African booty scratcher and stuff like that. But in our defense, we also used to talk about your mother.
Miss Loretta, I'm ready for the rest of the tour.
And I'm pretty sure most people would rather be called African booty scratchers than me tell you, I'm trying to smash your mother.
She think I'm cute, she wanna have sex.
Africans ruin Essence Fest. You would think you walked around and you just heard Jerusalem, Ikayanami, he no gonna say no. You would think you walked around and everybody was like, baby, come down, come down. That's not what happened. Every corner you turned, you heard what them fans say, which is traditionally African-American jubilation song. Let me tell you something. When it comes to diaspora wars, I do believe Africans be lying. But even more, African-Americans be lying as well. Because everybody wants to drive their own narrative. So people make up stuff and say whatever they can to sell the point across. Sometimes, most of the time, it ain't true. Not even sometimes. What am I talking about? Like, oh, African-Americans ain't got no culture. Oh, Like, oh, Africans trying to take over our spaces. Not the case. Africans were to be, if Africans were to be present at your festival, trust me, you will know. There will be the smell of suya in the air. Uncles all around the area. Burna Boy and Davido would have been a headliner. It would have been insane. I was there, and my experience was once again enjoying and celebrating and reveling in all the beauty that is Black American culture. The food, the dances, the music. I never for one second thought, man, Africans finally took us over. Never. A festival that starts to decline, and rather than us talk about the logistics or things that we could do to make things better, technicalities, where did we go wrong? You know, was it sponsorships? Was it the economy? Was it the rollback on DEI programs? None of that. The first thing we could think of, an African bought it. And no offense to Rich, but if you've ever heard Richelieu Dennis talk, he's not even he's not even the African that you're thinking about.
It's very timely, and it's also critically important. You know, we talk about owning our culture, right? And we talk about creating wealth for our community, right? And the most valuable thing that we have left as a community, and the one thing that they can appropriate at times, they can misappropriate at times, but they can never take, is our culture.
I gave an interview where I said, they would say, Roland, how can, when I ran Chicago Defender, Roland, but you know, the Sun Times, the Tribune, and I said, let me be clear, they can never out-black me.
No, they cannot. And
they can cover our stuff, but they can't out-black me.
They can't out-black you. And what we have to do is monetize our culture.
He's for the most part a lot more American than he is. Like, he's not like, you know, like the way it described it, you made it sound like Patrice Lumumba. Somebody with that kind of name came and took over your business, just came straight from the continent and took over. That's not what happened. And we're not even, and up until now, for the most part, these are the people that have organized Essence Fest. This is what they look like. I don't think anybody has had any complaints.
The Solomon Group owned it first, then Mark bought it, and now Rich owns it.
I don't think it was divisive when they were in control. I don't think there was any narratives being told. But for some reason, when anything seems to go wrong, we start to point fingers and look at each other and start to blame ourselves. And I hate to say this, and those of you who know, those Africans who know, guess what? Africans do this for their own festivals too. When it comes to Afrochella, when it comes to Afrofuture, now the current name, people will make all this commentary about what Afrofuture is and what it isn't. Rather than celebrating the progress of such a undertaking of such a great venture in the diaspora, rather than complimenting it, the first thing we do is break it down and criticize.
And I agree. I really think the hate is misplaced. I believe as an African American, we can be upset that the company is not owned by an African American, especially when they sell it to someone who doesn't look like us. Huh? We need to work together, not fight with each other because I'm from America and you're from Jamaica or another country. It's enough races who don't like us, who don't support us, and we need to stop spending with them. Anyways, I'm excited. Go Shop Black is coming soon, and we getting close. So if you like this video, check out the video on why Black people aren't helping Latinos fight against ICE.